Well, hi there, and welcome along to Jump to It, brought to you in association with irishracing.com. I'm Ed Quigley, and we're going to be looking ahead to a plethora of action this weekend with the Grade 1 Ascot Chase taking centre stage. Some very good supporting cards as well. If you want to term them that, we have Haydock, Wincanton, and some interesting runners in Ireland as well, which we will be perusing. All in the company of Stephen Harris, and I'd like to say Vincent Finegan's along for the ride again today. Good morning to you, gents. Great to see you. Stephen, I'll come to you first. The breaking shock news this morning, literally 5 minutes before we went on air, that jockey Tom Scudamore has called time on his career at the age of 40. This is following a fall at Leicester on Thursday. His previous injury to that, he was on the sidelines with concussion. And to quote Tom Scudamore, he says he feels this was a warning and has decided to retire with immediate effect. He rode 1,511 winners in his 25-year career, and now he will move on to the next chapter. Just your thoughts, Stephen. Tom Scudamore, one of the stalwarts of the weighing room.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic career he's had, and he's had a really good season this year. He's been riding winner after winner because David Pipe has had something of a renaissance season, hasn't he? He's probably had his best season for probably a decade, I would imagine. They've got some really nice young horses and some tough handicappers, and Tom is a very reliable, completely honest, strong jockey who didn't make many mistakes and regularly rode an awful lot of winners. I mean, and fair play to him, he's getting out in one piece. I mean, a lot of the time, sadly, these jockeys get really badly injured and never come back, do they? So at least he has gone. I think he's 41. He says he doesn't know what he's going to do next, but presumably maybe it'll be something in the media or at the tracks. I think he's widely liked and good on him, really, to bow out on his own terms.
I was going to say, amongst the highlights, obviously Thistlecrack being a Stayers Hurdle winner and King George winner. And one that I wanted to throw in, though, I'm sure Vincent will remember, was a Western Warhorse winning the Arklewood 2014, beating Champagne Fever on the nose. I think Western Warhorse might have been the 33-1 outsider of the field. I don't think he ever won a race or barely raced again afterwards, but that was a bit of a shot. But yeah, Tom Scoo calls it a day, Vincent.
Yeah, means little to me, I have to say, bar the fact I knew his father used to ride for the same yard as well. But look, this is the thing with these jump guys. There's a lot of guys around a long time. You can see why they get tired of it because it's a very tough game. The one that surprises me all the time is Davy Russell, how he came back after his severe injury. Then he retires and now he's back again. So he was actually in the UK. Yes, they won riding over there as well. Look, Tom Scudamore, good idea. Yeah, good idea for him to get out when he can. 41. I'm sure he's made a few quid and he'll have a whole career ahead of him in the game. No reason why he can't make a new career out of racing. Absolutely, I could see him being a steward. He could be anything, as Stephen says. Yeah.
Indeed. Just very quickly before we move on to this weekend's action, just something, Vincent, the biggest news in the equine world over the last week was that Allaho will be missing the Ryanair Chase. I mean, that sent shockwaves throughout the anti-post market. It's kind of blown the lid wide open in that race. I mean, your reflections upon that news?
Yeah, look, some people seem to think it was coming a long time before it came, that news. I know John Deneen, who does some stuff for the Racing Post in one of their Up in the Antes video, he was on about that weeks ago, that the horse wouldn't run, couldn't see it run and everything else. So I'm not quite sure. I'm disappointed with the fact that the horse isn't running because it's one of the stars of the game. It had a bleed in its abdomen, which seemingly is quite serious. It's a bit like colic or something, and the horse almost died. Hopefully the horse will come back. It's seemingly there's better news in the last few days about the horse, but it blows that Ryanair Chase wide open, doesn't it? Looks like Blue Lord is going to step up from the 2 miles to run there. You have Faki Dudaris, who we're going to talk about later on, runs this weekend as well. So it's interesting stuff, but it really changes the complexion of that race in a huge way.
It sure does, and we could potentially see Shishkin in the lineup as well. We're going to discuss all the merits of those horses and more. It's now time to look at our races of the week. Well, as I said, lots of action we're going to enjoy over the course of the next couple of days. Ascot taking centre stage. We're going to kick off with the 150. Stephen, this is time for you to get your your habitual moaning. Well, I'm going to moan
Moan,
for you
yeah.
first. If I said this was the worst renewal of the Reynolds ever, would that be hyperbole?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not entirely the track's faults at the moment. I mean, the ground, we haven't had any rain for a month. I mean, I went to Sandown yesterday and he'd done an amazing job. The trainers were absolutely delighted because he had
Mm.
chucked absolute tons of water on. I mean, it was soft ground on the hurdle course and it was sort of perfect ground on the chase. He'd done an amazing job. And I think, in fairness to Ascot, they put plenty of water on. It's still good to soft in places. But we do need rain. I mean, this is a pretty dismal renewal. I mean, 4 runners, there's over 50 grand's worth of prize money on offer. To get 4 runs, the bottom one looks impossible. Oscar Elite, he's 0 from 8 over fences and looks on the downgrade for Paul Nicholls. JJ Riley won a very weak race handicap all out from the front at Kempton the other day. I don't particularly fancy that. I think it's a match between the front two, Bold Endeavour and Kinondo Queta. Kinondo Queta is a really good advert for Sam and Jonathan England, been ridden to perfection all winter. One of these horses, Ed, keeps defying the handicapper by leading late and then idling and winning by half a length a neck. You know, been a really good horse to follow in the north, but is now stepping up into, a much better race here in Grade 2 company, albeit it is just basically quite a good handicap in truth. But the one I'd like is Bold Endeavour, who's been a revelation for Nicky Henderson since arriving from Laura Morgan, pulled up on final start for Laura Morgan, who's a very good trainer in her own right, by the way, but it was pounds, shillings and pence on stable debut when Bold Endeavour won, and he won in spite of jumping right-handed last time out at Doncaster. So he's back going right-handed at Ascot, which will suit him. Good ground will suit him. He'll either lead or sit second to JJ Riley, and I think he's got a gilt-edged chance. It's either him or Kinondo Queta. I mean, instinctively, you suspect the southern form will be much stronger than the northern form, and I thought that Bold Endeavour would probably win.
Bold Endeavour on that hat-trick then, Vincent. Do you think he'll get the job done with a minimum of fuss?
Yeah, I'd expect he will. The other thing to note here is he's a point-to-point winner as well. This is his first time stepping up to this sort of trip over fences. Be very disappointed if he doesn't win. He's probably a fair price at 4 to 6, to be honest with you, Ed.
Yeah, indeed. It's a disappointing race, isn't it? Let's just not mess around here. Nothing with any real kind of Bobsworth-style Cheltenham pretensions as we've had in the past. So let's shuffle along to the next race on the cards, the 225 now. The Swinley handicap chase. We've got 14 declared for this. All sorts of interesting angles in here, Stephen. I mean, where are you going as your starting point? Captain Ord, generally your market leader here, around 4 to 1, runner-up last time. Only 10 stone 8, mark of 127. Do you think he can defy that?
Yeah, it's owned by Palamini and Marmion. He's a lovely old boy, 10 years old now. I don't think he's getting any better, but he ran really well at Doncaster last time. He was an unlucky loser. He got badly hampered by a horse Danny McMenamin was riding. In fact, I spoke to Jack Tudor and Christian yesterday, and they were saying how unlucky he was at Doncaster. There's no secrets with him. He's short enough at 5 to 1. I prefer the claims of Revels Hill, trained by Harry Fry, 2 from 7 over fences. A very, very good run at Ascot over 2 mile 5 on his seasonal reappearance, finishing strongly into second. They then went right up in trip, 3 mile 5 at Sandown. I think Brogan got caught a bit too far back there. He never landed a blow in a very truly run race, but he shaped nicely. They've put the cheek pieces on. There's more to come from him. He's had 7 runs over fences. Jonathan Burke takes over in the saddle. 3 miles, good ground, back at Ascot. I think 6 to 1 is one of the better bets of the weekend.
Oh, fantastic. Strong word for Revels Hill there, as Stephen says. 6 to 1 pretty much across the boards in the 225 at Ascot. Any interest for you in this one, Vincent, or are you going to sit it out?
Well, not particularly from a betting point of view, but there's one horse to keep an eye on here down the bottom is Regal Encore, 15-year-old owned by JP McManus. This is very interesting. This horse seems to only be in training for this one race each year. He won it in 2018, third the next year, third the following year, second in 2021, fourth last year, only beaten 5 lengths. He raced off a 140 last year. He's off 127 this time. So £13 lower. 28 to 1 is a very big price. He was back from 20 to 1 into 9 to 1 for this race last year and got beaten 5 lengths. This time he's nearly a stone lower. Aidan Coleman booked. Be surprised if he's 28 to 1 on the day.
Interesting to get the stats up on 15-year-olds that have won under National Hunt Chase rules. Yeah, there can't be that many. That's an interesting one. If anyone does know, of course, yeah, get in touch on our social media pages and let us know about the old boy Regal Encore. He was running in the champion bumper nearly a decade or so ago. That's pretty mad, isn't it, really? He's still going. On to the 3 o'clock. That is the next race we're going to be previewing at Ascot here. We've got handicap hurdle action, over £26,000 to the winner for this 2 mile 3 event. 13 due to go to post here, Stephen. Now, that's a wide open field to it, doesn't it? Mr. Cobden, Mr. Nichols, with the strong hand here of the hat-trick seeking Irish Hill, who's your market leader. Are you with or against the jolly here?
I thought Irish Hill and DJ Joe are the two to concentrate on. I'm not sure who's going to ride DJ though. It's obviously Tom Scudamore's retired, so Venetia will have to find somebody else to ride him. But no, Irish Hill, 9 runs over hurdles, 4 wins, very quietly progressive. Last time out of Fakenham, Bryony was on in a big field. I think it was the most valuable handicap they've ever run at Fakenham. And it was an amazing performance. Although it looks like he scrambled in and only won narrowly, it was one of those Fakenham races where they absolutely took each other on for the whole of the final lap. And I thought Irish Hill did incredibly well to see things out. As I say, he's gone up a few pounds as a result of that, but he's just thriving. I think better ground at Ascot will suit. They were worried about the ground being too soft at Fakenham. Nearly all of his form is on good to soft or quicker. And I think he'll love this track on decent ground. There's more to come. He's around 5-1. And DiGelo has got a similarly upwardly mobile profile. I don't think he was seen to maximum effect last time. There's more to come from him, and he'll like the test of speed round here. But this is a really good race to watch. There's loads of very progressive performers in this 50 grand race.
Indeed, lots of unexposed sorts and lots of winning recent form. Anything for yourself in this, Vincent?
Well, one that doesn't have winning recent form, but is a little bit of a sleeper here is the one down the bottom here. Zoffany Bay. Peter Fahey sends it over. Aidan Coleman booked to ride. Very interesting horse. Used to be trained in the UK. Then it went to France, trained by David Cotton. And hasn't run for, nearly 2 years. But interesting that it runs here. I wouldn't be surprised to see this come alive at some point in the betting for it. It's short enough price at the minute, which is a bit disappointing now. You'd think this is one that when you haven't run in that long and you're coming over, it could be a 20-1 chance, but it's nothing like that. Obviously, the bookmakers don't miss these Irish ones that often, but Irish runner in a handicap like this with a shrewd yard, interesting one.
Indeed. Last seen, as you say, 700 days ago, winning a listed handicap at Otoy. Running here from £3 out the handicap, and Hayden Coleman booked. I have absolutely no idea what is going to happen there, but as you say, definitely one to take note of. And wide open looking encounter if I get my words out. Right, on to the 3:35. This is the big one on your cards on the Saturday afternoon. Is the Grade 1 Betfair Ascot Chase, 2 miles, 5 furlongs, £100,000 to the winner. 6 declared. All sorts of interesting stories in this, Stephen. And we've got Fakir Duderi, your 7-4 market leader. Shishkin, 5-2. Can he turn back the clock? Pick Dorhy, who's been my fancy in this, 11-4. You're going 10's Miller's Bank, 22's First Flow, 66-1. I'll tell you what, Vincent, we'll come to you first because Fakir Duderi is trained in Ireland and is the reigning champion and is the market leader to win it again. Do you think he makes it 2 wins on the bounce in this assignment?
I think this is a great price at 7-4. It's very
right.
Juicy. This, I don't fancy Shishkin. That's the first port of call here from me. Don't think so. Wind surgery, tongue strap on the first time, trying a trip it's never run over before. All sorts of reasons why I don't fancy that horse. Fakir Duderi's won the race last year. You go through this horse's form. Runs almost the same race every day it runs. Yeah. And is that good enough for here? I think it is. A lot of people would say, was going to get beaten the last day in Thurles. Auton Couleurs would have won, but it fell at the last. Possibly right. But Fakir Duderi's was giving £9 to that horse the last day, and it was over a shorter trip. You have an extra furlong here, which suits the horse. He was staying on, might have made a battle of it from the last home that day. What's interesting is that Auton Couleurs runs in Gowran Park on Saturday. It runs 7 minutes before this Betfair Chase. So if that hacks up in Gowran Park, you can take it. Fakir Duderi's is a very short price here. I'll be surprised if it gets beat, to be honest with you.
Right, okay. Strong word for the reigning champion, Facundo Derry. 7-4 across the board. I think he went off 9-4 last year. So again, see a bit of value in Vincent's eyes. Stephen, how are you playing this one? So, I mean, interesting angles in here, isn't there? Facundo Derry, who you know, probably was a fortunate winner last time out, but did win, reigning champion. Shishkin, who, if was Shishkin, we know probably win by half the track. Question mark is 5-2 fair enough to find out? And then you've got Pick Dorhey, who's really going through the gears and has won 3 on the bounce of barely coming off the bridle. I'm really looking forward to this contest.
Yeah, it's fascinating puzzle, isn't it? I mean, the first thing, work your way down. I right looks about 200 to 1, but could be nuisance value if they try and lead with him. First flow's now 11, safely held in the Peterborough. Kim Bailey, very quiet. He wants to front run as well. So there's 2 possible spoilers for Pick Dorhey, who's had the run of things this season from the front. He's a good jumper. He's won at Ascot. He likes decent ground. But I do think he could get hassled on the lead. The horse who ran against Pick Dorhey at Huntingdon in the Peterborough was Miller's Bank, who was a well-backed favourite that day. And I was on. I have to pocket talk. I thought he was given far too much to do and should have won. Pick Dorhey got loose, jumped well, was always clear, and Miller's Bank flew home, finished with running left under a negative ride. Now, since then, Miller's Bank's disappointed in the King George, probably outclassed there. They've taken the cheek pieces off. He's 12 to 1. Well, if Pick Dorhey's 5-2, Miller's Bank can't be 12 to 1. Miller's Bank's got a better makeup here than Pick Dorhey because Pick Dorhey may not get an uncontested lead. So that's my way in. I thought Miller's Bank was a good value bet to come to Shishkin. If Shishkin wins or places, I think we were talking off air about this. I'm going to lay him a place because I think there's a small chance, and I'll be completely wrong about him if this does happen, that he bounces straight back to his best age 9. They've sorted out those nasty physical problems that meant he ran abysmally at the festival last year, and he ran a very laboured and disappointing race in the Tingle Creek as well. They've tried to backfit a story that 2 miles is too sharp for him now. He needs a trip. Well, that's a load of nonsense. I can't have that at all. I will be bang against him, but I think it might be cheaper to be against him a place. You might be able to lay sort of 6-4, 7-4, maybe less, that he finishes in the first 2. And maybe on the exchanges, you'll be able to lay him to finish in the first 3 at odds on. Because I think he's got potential to blow out altogether here. And at the price, the one thing I will say is, when I looked at this race, I thought Fakir Doudre, who's run 20 times over fences amazingly, I thought he might be like evens 11 to 10, and he's gone out to 2 to 1 on the exchange. That is a big price. I mean, he won the race last year. He's going to get a hold-up ride. Maybe the move is, or my move's going to be back Miller's Bank 12, 14 to 1, and save your stake, or have Fakir Doudre winning at around 2 to 1. I think that's a good way of opposing the other 2 in the market.
Yes, yeah, so you're essentially Lane Shishkin, Stephen, which, as you say, it's a fascinating race, and split views across the panel on that one, and what should be an absolute corker. Right, we're going to shuffle across up to the northwest of England for Haydock. Thankfully, they've had a, inverted commas, a bit of rain. I mean, it's good to soft. There are a few showers in the area as well, so hopefully the field sizes do stack up. We've got the Rendlesham Hurdle, which has just the 7 declared. This looks incredibly wide open, doesn't it, Stephen? You've got Earn River, 11 to 4, Green Book, who's only rated 139, is vying for favouritism to win a Grade 2 hurdle. This is a really almost confusing race. Ashtown Lad, who's a 9-year-old, 4 to 1. Itchy Feet bounced back to winning ways, 9 to 2 last time out. Were Cool 10s, Elvis Mail 16s. Can you sort the wheat from the chaff in this one, Stephen?
Well, it's a horribly trappy race with that dreaded 7 runners, Ed. We hate those, don't we? Because it does make it and they're very unpredictable horses. I mean, I've selected Earn River. I thought he ran well over fences here behind Hitman. He's back over hurdles. He's the stable star. He always gives his running. He's a strong traveller. He's well suited by Haydock. Charlie Hammond knows him well. I think he's bound to give his running, whereas I'm not totally convinced that some of these other ones will. I mean, Green Book won that handicap hurdle at Sandown for the 2nd year running, bounced back to his best. More rain would be a plus for him, like with all of Venetia's. But Sandown and Haydock are 2 very different tracks. and this is a slightly better race. I mean, I respect his claims because he's fit well. There's probably more to come after 2 runs this season, but totally different circumstances here. I guess if it does rain, that would increase his chance. Ashdown Lad, also, I've never particularly liked. Who I do think is better suited to fences these days. I think he won the Beecher, didn't he, at Aintree before? So I thought Earn River was fairly solid, but it's a horrible race to have a bet in.
Yeah, indeed. I wondered if Itchy Feet had turned the corner. I think we were discussing the other day. A former Grade 1 winning chaser. Is a bit of a quiz question for you. If you go back to the 2020 Cheltenham Festival, he was set off second favourite behind which horse? Does anyone know on the panel?
Sam Crow, maybe?
Oh, you're not far off. Sam Crow won the race. He won the Martial Offices. Faheen was 3-1 favourite. Itchy Feet was 7-2 to beat Faheen. How about that? There we go. Anyway,
I'll tell you something about Itchy Feet, Ed. We've followed him off a cliff, haven't we? I've been on about 10 times in his whole career. He's always running on out the back looking short spot. He went to Huntingdon the other day and they did lead on him, which I think made the difference. But they walked round and he won. And I could not believe it after the race. I sat in silence for a minute trying to work it out. Because, you wouldn't have dreamt that Huntingdon would be his track on decent ground. And you wouldn't have thought in a slow run race he'd have enough pace to fend them all off over hurdles. But Ollie Murphy's horses are flying. So, as you say, maybe he's turned the corner.
Yeah, back to hurdles. Maybe he's revitalised. I mean, we shall see. It's incredibly difficult. Any input on this one, Vincent?
Yeah, one little piece to put into your minds here is last 13 runnings of this, only one favourite has won, which is a bad sign for starters. The other thing with just Earn River, Itchy Feet, Ashdown Lad, they all look to me to be better chasers than hurdlers. So I don't really like these ones that switch between the two codes. I think this is very trappy. It's a no-bet race, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll get the splinters out your backside in due course, Vincent. But no, I totally agree with you. It's very tricky to have any cast iron assertions and a few horses in there. I think, how should we say, protecting their marks with the Grand National in mind, etc. Having this is a good day out. Speaking of the Grand National, the 240 at Haydock is the Grand National Trial. We do have 15, Stephen's favourite number on a Saturday afternoon. 15 going to post for this one. Wide open field to it, 5-1 the field, but eyes are naturally drawn to the old boy. Top weight, Bristol Demai, 12 years young, looking to win it again and enhance his incredible record at this track. Off the top of my head, is it 4 or 5 wins at Haydock? Haydock Demai, as he's called. Stephen, do you think the old boy has realistic claims here? I mean, he has dropped to a mark of 154, or are you looking for some younger, fresher legs?
Not for me at all. No, I think he's got a really stiff task here. It's good to soft. It's been good earlier in the week. So unless the rain really arrives, I couldn't fancy him. I mean, Nigel Twiston-Davies has been saying he's as good as ever for about the last 4 years, hasn't he? And I think the facts are he's not. He was fit and fancied first time out. All right, it was a much better race. But no, I don't fancy him at all. I thought that Not a Chance was overpriced here. Now, he hasn't won for 2 years. I think it was early 2021 when he last won. But he's shaped quite well twice. And this season, he ran really well at Warwick last time out, never really landing a blow. He is tricky. I think the long Haydock straight might suit him under a patient ride. I mean, the one thing to say here, Ed, they're going to go a million miles an hour, aren't they? There's about 6 front runners. I mean, Bristol de May wants the lead. Quick Wave wants the lead. I think Fortescue's front run. Snow Leopardess is a bang front runner back from the cross country. The Two Amigos, Small Present, Tim Pat, Saint Savage. I mean, they're all front runners at various times in their long careers. So, I think a hold-up ride. I mean, I don't particularly like Not a Chance. I think he's a bit of a monkey horse. He needs finessing into things. But he's run once at Haydock in the Tommy Whittle in a year and a half ago or so. And that was a good run. It was a 50-1 chance that day, outclassed, and he wasn't disgraced. And I think it might just suit him. Alan King was quiet, wasn't he, during the big freeze and afterwards, but more encouraging signs here. And Tom Cannon's booked, who's one of the best jockeys riding at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Pretty wide open race. Vince, I mean, this race in itself, do you have an eye on anything? Or is there anything, I don't know if you've been burning the midnight oil, the 85 Grand National entries kind of coming up with your shortlist. Is there anything running here which you think you've got on your shortlist for the big one at Aintree in April?
Well, the entry Grand Nationals changed a lot from what it used to be. Years ago, you were looking for horses that they were a bit like the Regal Encore we mentioned earlier, only had one race in mind all year was the Grand National.
Yeah.
But now it seems to be a different thing. There's horses can come through, top class chasers and everything. The likes of Bristol de May here. Yeah, I can't see it winning, but having said that, it's £5 lower than it was in this race last year when it finished second, so you couldn't rule it out here. The one with the Grand National in mind, an old style one in a way, is this Snow Leopardess. Started 10-1 to beat the field in the Grand National last year. One of the favourites for the race last year was prolific prior to that, and that's why it was, because it was after winning a few races coming in. The whole world fancied this to win the Grand National last year and disappointed. Pulled up in the race. Cheek pieces on the first time, hasn't been running that bad. These runs in Cheltenham, Sandown and that, they're not the worst runs in the world. I wouldn't be surprised to see this maybe come back at some point. Whether it can win a Grand National or not, I don't think so, possibly. But could certainly be a contender here, I would have thought.
Yeah, interesting. Cheek pieces on for the first time on the mare Snow Leopardess, who did win on her only previous visit to the track as well. So, yeah, that type of race, again, pretty wide open. I've got no strong view on it, but I think there'll be no doubt if Bristol de Mai, realistically, it could be probably his last run ever, wouldn't it? If he goes here and wins or even tails off, it's not going to be many other chapters left in the great career of the former Grade 1 winner. Right, very quickly, we'll just wrap up at Wincanton in terms of the GB action. It's the Kingwell Hurdle, just the four declared. Not much between them on official ratings here, Stephen. Nappers Hill First Street, I like to move it. 153, 152, and 152. So the assessor pretty much says they're all the same horse. The market is suggesting they're more or less the same horse. They're very slight preference for First Street. Do you have a preference either way, or are you going to sit this one out?
No, I think First Street 6-4, very fair price, and here's why:
Right.
Global Citizen, bang front runner. Nappers Hill wants to front run, and I like to move it better at Cheltenham, wants to front run. So James Bowen has got the absolute perfect makeup here to swoop late. I mean, First Street was a really impressive winner, a pretty hot Newbury handicap first time out, and I thought he then got caught a bit too far back at Cheltenham in a warm race. I think Wincanton on firm ground, he'll have much too much speed for these. Nappers Hill is going to be a lovely 3-mile chaser in time. He's been progressing nicely. He's one round here from the front, but I don't think he's going to get any peace on the lead with Sam Twiston Davis on I Like to Move It and the Rag. So I think First Street, sit fourth, cruise round, do them for speed late.
Okay, that pretty much wraps that one up then. So, Vincent, your time to take the dance floor here. Can you just go through the best of the Irish action for the weekend, please?
Yeah, sure enough. Just one thing I'll just add in here regarding Irish action is have a look at the Per Temps race. Per Temps qualifier at Haydock. It's the 318 on Saturday at Haydock. Emmett Mullins runs one here. Hardy bloke. It's got a change of owner. It was running in Emmett's colours. It's now changed to Darren Yates. Very good third at the Dublin Racing Festival the last day. You'd be interested in that. That's one to look out for there. But on the Irish front, we've got two meetings this weekend. We've Gowran Park Saturday, and we've got Punchestown Sunday. The better meeting is Gowran Park Saturday, which is a bit unusual. It's normally the Sunday meeting takes the spotlight, but Saturday got some good races. We've a Red Mills Trial Hurdle in Gowran. The likes of Sharjah runs in that against Fildor. Sharjah probably a short price, not quite the horse that Sharjah was, but at the same time probably better than these. Fildor was very disappointing against El Fabiolo over fences the last day, switches back to hurdle. So looks more or less a match between those two, but an interesting race. The other one to look at here is the later race on the card, the Red Mills Grade 2 Chase. This is a very interesting race. Firstly, with that, you had Manila Drama. Donald McCain was entered to race here, doesn't, which I'm not surprised because he goes to Kelso, the 305 in Kelso on Friday. If you get to see this, this video should be out by that time. Whether you watch it by then or not is the question. But the McCains have certainly gone for a much easier assignment in Kelso. Nothing like what they would have met here. This is a very interesting race for lots of reasons. The first one is we've that Autumn Couleurs, which was going to win against Facu Didaris in Thurles the last day and fell at the last. That's one to look at. Paul Townend rides this, which is interesting. In the race, you've also got Janadale. This is a fair horse. Second in the Ryanair last season. Not seen since the Punchestown Festival, but very interesting horse. Another one then is the one I like in it is the top horse, Capadano. Finished fourth in the Brown Advisory to Long Press. to Long Press. Then went on and won at the Punchestown Festival, won a Grade 1 there. The problem for that Grade 1 win is it's got a £9 penalty in this particular race. But having said that, Willie Mullins said when it won that day, this could be our Gold Cup horse, which is very interesting considering he also trains the Gold Cup favourite. So this is a very interesting horse, Capodanno. Could be anything. Still has that question mark. What the hell is this horse? JP has 3 in it. He's got Durasso as well, which actually won the Red Mills Trial Hurdle a couple of years ago. Durasso likes it around this course too. Couldn't rule that out of being involved somewhere. But very interesting race. I like Capodanno. The other race on the card here is a Bumper. Is a really interesting race. The Bumper. There's some very decent form coming into it from lots of them. Lots of big stables represented. But there's one very interesting candidate. There's a newcomer called Brighter Times Ahead. Gigginstown and Gordon Elliott. It's a half-sister to French Dynamite and Mighty Potter. It's also interesting that it's called Brighter Times Ahead because he's got another horse in the yard called Better Times Ahead. I wonder what he's named when Gordon Elliott sat on the dead horse or something, and they were all hoping that he'd come back in at better times afterwards and brighter times, but that's an interesting one. And then we move on quickly to Punchestown on Sunday. You've got a Grand National Trial in Punchestown Sunday, similar to the one in the UK. Gordon Elliott has won this 3 of the last 4 runnings of it. Last year, he actually had 3 of the first 4 home in it last year. We haven't got declarations for this at this moment in time, but 7 of the 17 entries are his. He's got Debt Duty in it, which won it last year. He's also got Dunboyne, which was a short head second in the Tayestes Chase to Carefully Selected the last day. So that's very interesting. It's got a £5 penalty for that. It's gone up £5 in the ratings. We've also got another nice bumper there on the card. And an interesting one is the last race in the card in Punchestown has a race called the Up the Yard Challenge, which is for stable lads and lasses to ride in a race, which is quite interesting. So that's always nice to see that the guys who basically are out of the limelight most of the time, they get one day to shine, which is this particular one. So that'll be interesting. There's quite a good horse in there as well in the entries. Is it Willie Mullins? Is that Scaramanga, which would have been one of his Ascot Gold Cup type horses. So it's interesting to see that in there. And that'll probably beat these, I presume, if it runs rated 89 on the flat. So there you go. That's the rundown of the weekend as quickly as I can do it for the 2 Irish meetings at least.
Yeah, it's very fascinating stuff. And I mean, that I suppose I was most naturally drawn to Ho on Color. As you say, that form line through Fakaduderi. For argument's sake, Ho on Color bolts up in this. They're probably going to have to think about seriously supplementing him for the Ryanair Chase, aren't they? If they want to go down that route with, obviously, Allaho out. That race looks wide open, as we have touched upon. Right, as Vincent says, that pretty much concludes business in terms of our previews. Now it's time to nail the colours to the mast with our tips of the week. Right, Vincent, you've been in blinding form, unlike Mr. Harris. Actually, I'm being a bit unfair. Stephen Harris has cheered up with the sun coming out, it has to be said. But Vincent, you can lead off. Can we have your nap, value, and long shot for the weekend, please?
Okay, the nap. I really like this one. It's called Grandero Bello. This is actually owned by Nicky Henderson's sister, would you believe? It was bought by Barry Geraghty on her behalf. He picked the horse out for them. This will be very hard to beat. Has definitely got the best form in the race. It finished second the last day to a horse of Willie Mullins is called Bron. Wasn't beaten very far. Bron, the previous day, had finished second to Jerry Colomb, which is one of the best horses around at the minute. So I think this is different gravy here. I think any odds against is probably a decent price. It's not a price you'd normally take in a beginner's chase, but I'd be very disappointed if this doesn't win. The other one then was Capodanno. I've mentioned this already. He's got a £9 penalty, which is a worry. But this horse only has 1 entry for Cheltenham, which is the Gold Cup. Could be anything. Still could be anything, this horse. I wouldn't be surprised to see this win here and then go to the Gold Cup as a lively outsider. And then my long shot is one that used to be trained by Paul Nolan, Coventry. It's now with Gordon Elliott. It's had a few runs with Gordon Elliott. They've run it in a couple of those per temps qualifiers, and it didn't finish in the first 4, which means it doesn't run in the per temps is the bottom line. So maybe they were giving it a bit of a sighting for that. No per temps now. They may as well go here, I would have thought. So I thought this could be value here. Paul Nolan often taught a lot of this horse. It's run some good races in the past. Be surprised if it's not involved.
Interesting. The skies are blue for Coventry, according to Vincent. And Stephen, over to yourself here. Where are we going for our best bets?
Yeah, betting expert Nat runs at Ascot in the 225, Revels Hill, Harry Fry, dropping back in trip, ran really well at Ascot in his seasonal debut. They put the cheek pieces on. I think there's loads more improvement to come. He's around 6.13 to 2. I don't think this handicap is quite as competitive as you might usually expect. And I think
Right.
Jonathan Burke, who's riding really well, taking over in the saddle is a big plus and a much more positive ride we saw than we saw at Sandown last time over a marathon trip. The value angle selection, I'm going to take Vincent on with Miller's Bank, who's around 12 to 1. I think he's the same horse as Picdory, and I think he's got a better makeup than Picdory. So there cannot possibly be the price disparity. I think you've got to play in the race as a punter. There's 30% of the market taken up by Shishkin, and if he wins, I'm going to have to lose, and I'll be red-faced and put my hand up next week. But I really don't fancy him. By the way, you can lay him at 9 to 2 for the Ryanair Chase at Cheltenham at the moment. Well, I don't think I'll be able to help myself there, preferably before he jumps off at Ascot. Not for me at all, Shishkin. And the long shot runs in that Grand National trial at Haydock 240. Not a chance. He hasn't won since 2021. He's slow, he's quirky, but I think there's so much pace on in this
Yeah.
in this race. There's so many front runners. They're going to over race and get racing far too far out. I could just see Tom Cannon dropping him out, creeping into contention, and hopefully the cards will fall right at around 12 or 14 to 1.
Excellent. So great value on your cards there. Make a note of all those selections. Always make note of Stephen's selections on bettingexpert.com. For my three, well, I've got my hashtag Paul Nichols t-shirt on. Flicker Voyou down at Wincanton. The horse has a phenomenal record there. I think 3 wins from 4 visits. The only time Flicker Voyou lost at Wincanton was when chasing home certain Edwardstone. So pretty smart form there. Loves rattling quick ground. 7-4 favourite, I think, in a rubbish race, and I thought would be even shorter, and I think we'll win. Then in the Ascot Chase, we're split on the panel here, quite literally. 3 different selections from us, but I just think this is Picdory's Gold Cup in inverted commas, right-handed, good ground, flat track, won at Ascot before. Question marks about some of the others. Paul Nichols flying, so Picdory for me. And then we've gone for an old Raffy. Sporting John in the Swinley handicap chase. Looked like the wheels had come off last time out. However, has eased to 147, but crucially he's had the wind operation. Last time the horse had the wind op, he came back and absolutely bolted up at Cheltenham. I think he's a bit Jekyll and Hyde, but he did win on his only previous visit to Ascot. He clearly has a lot of ability. As I said, he is a former Grade 1 winning chaser running in the handicap off 147. The Philip Hobbs team as well had a bit of a U-turn, haven't they, after a very quiet spell? Did they go 53 horses without a winner? I think they went pretty much from Time Hill on the 26th of December through to the start of February without a winner, and now they've suddenly blossomed. So maybe that bodes well for the JP McManus-owned individual. Very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, any plans for the weekend, Stephen?
No, watching the racing, I think, sitting on the sofa, watching the racing at Newbury on Sunday. And here's something for us to moan about next week.
Go on.
7 races, 35 runners.
Big fields. Yeah, big fields. So that's good. That will set you off on the moaning path again next week. But no, valid point. But again, we lots of racing, quick ground, not enough horses to support the race program population. I think there we go. We've covered that one before, haven't we? Vincent, yourself, what are you up to? Last time I spoke to you, you were meeting in an Italian restaurant with your family. You didn't make it to the DRF. You were crestfallen. Things looking up in the Vincent Finegan household this weekend.
No, it's all gone downhill, Ed. I have a daughter borrowing my car for the weekend. She's gone down to Dingle in Kerry for the weekend, and she's taken my car, so I'm stuck at home most of the time, unless my darling wife will bring me somewhere. So there you go. Yeah, quiet weekend for me.
Quiet weekend, actually, calm before the storm, with 3.5 weeks or so to go to the Cheltenham Festival. Well, that pretty much wraps things up, and my thanks to Stephen Harris and to Vincent Finegan as always. Of course, don't forget to check out all Stephen's tips on bettingexpert.com. Don't forget to like irishracing.com, subscribe on YouTube, on all social media channels as well. Of course, don't forget to check out the website for all the latest news, views, and updates. Say there seems to be breaking news every 5 seconds at the moment. It's that time of year, isn't it? With Cheltenham on the horizon. Many thanks, most importantly, for you for watching at home. We'll do it all again next week. Bye for now.